You felt it, didn't you? That quiet shift in the air, when everything around you starts tightening, when conversations begin to carry a hidden weight, when people who once moved casually around you suddenly start looking in your direction with a kind of urgency they never showed before, and somehow, without needing anyone to say it out loud, you already know what is coming next. Because you've seen this pattern too many times to pretend it's new, too many times to mistake it for coincidence, too many times to ignore the way people only reach for you when something inside their world begins to crack. And right when they finally decide that they need you, right when their voices become louder and their messages more frequent and their expectations more intense, you're already gone, not physically disappearing in some dramatic exit, not making a scene or announcing your departure like someone seeking attention, but something far more unsettling than that. You withdraw your presence, your energy, your willingness to engage, and you leave behind a silence that forces them to face something they were never ready to confront. And they will talk about you. They will say you are cold, that you lack empathy, that you vanish when it matters most, that you cannot be relied on when pressure rises, because from their perspective, your absence feels like abandonment. But what they refuse to understand, what they avoid questioning, what they will never admit, even to themselves, is that your disappearance did not begin in the moment they needed you. It began long before that. It began in the small moments they ignored you, in the subtle ways they stopped respecting your time, in the quiet assumptions that you would always be there no matter how they treated your presence, in the invisible shift where you stopped being valued and started being expected. You noticed it all, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that demanded confrontation, but in the calm, observant way that defines you, the way you read people without needing them to explain themselves, the way you understand patterns instead of reacting to isolated moments. And while they were comfortable, while they believed everything was stable, while they assumed nothing would change, you were already adjusting. You were already stepping back internally, already reducing your emotional investment, already preparing to detach without making it visible, because you understand something that most people only realize when it is too late. That staying in a place where you're slowly being devalued is far more damaging than leaving before the damage becomes obvious. So when the pressure finally builds, when their situation becomes unstable, when they suddenly turn to you with urgency and expectation and need, they are not reaching for the same version of you that once stood there. That version is already gone. And here's the part that unsettles them the most, the part they cannot control, the part that makes your absence feel heavier than any argument or explanation ever could. You did not leave because of their crisis. You left because of their consistency. Because respect, you're not driven by the need to be needed. You're not controlled by emotional spikes or dramatic situations that demand immediate reactions. You move based on clarity, on observation, on a quiet understanding that your energy is not something to be distributed in moments of panic just because someone suddenly realizes your value. And that is why you disappear. Not out of anger, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but out of discipline. Because you understand that your presence has weight. And once you allow it to be treated as something that can be ignored in calm moments and demanded in chaotic ones, you lose something far more important than any connection you could preserve by staying. You lose control over yourself. And that is something you will never trade. So the next time they say you vanished right when they needed you most, the next time they try to frame your silence as absence, your distance as indifference, your withdrawal as failure, ask yourself something they never will. Did they really need you? Or did they only notice you when losing you finally became a problem?